like we are officially live. Hi guys, how are you? I hope you are enjoying your Tuesday. Forgot what day of the week it was for a second. And while I'm waiting for everything to come up, I'm gonna address what I thought was the elephant in the room, but it doesn't look too obvious now. Yes, I totally have a pimple patch on. Just, you know, those pimples that are just like, when you put makeup on, it just gets worse. It just like, nothing will help it. Yeah. All right, so everything looks good. The sound looks good. Let me know if there's any issues with the sound or anything later on in the stream, but let's go ahead and jump into this video. Super excited about this one because I think it's a very important part of inner work, like such a cornerstone foundational part of doing inner work in order to heal. But just in case you are new here, hi, my name is Caitlin, and on this channel and all of my social media platforms, we talk about how to level up your life in all areas in order to become your own dream girl. So we talk about manifestation, inner work, feminine energy, mindset, fashion, beauty, you know, lifestyle, all of the ways that you can level up your life, because I really am here to empower women to become the best versions of themselves. So if that's interesting to you, feel free to subscribe or follow me on any of the other social media platforms. I think I typically have them linked down below, but let's get into the video. We're going to be talking about what are triggers, why everyone is addicted to triggers, and how to actually overcome / reprogram your mind to not be triggered anymore. And triggers are something that I think are obviously a very highly sensitive topic for a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to admit when they're getting triggered. A lot of people waste a ton of time and energy on getting triggered when they could be putting it into other things. So let's go ahead and get into the video. So what are triggers and how do they work? And as always, I have my laptop here because I have so many notes that I would never be able to memorize. So let's just get into it. So anytime, especially in childhood or like our formative years of our lives, that you experience something that emits like or causes you to have a strong emotional reaction. So when I'm talking about a strong emotional reaction, a negative one, I mean like fear, panic, hurt, pain, distrust. When you experience those things in your life, especially in your younger years, and you don't actually take the time to process the emotion and get through the emotion, that emotion will become trapped in your body. And for example, like think about a toddler. So when a toddler, you know, does something that like accidentally causes them to hurt themselves, they'll like throw a fit for a second, like really just let it all out, and then they'll just walk away and they'll be fine. Most of us, once we start growing up, we don't do that. We don't give ourselves the time to like actually process traumatic events. So when that happens and the emotion gets trapped in our body, that fear, that resentment, whatever the negative feeling is, that will later present itself in your life as a trigger when you go through something similar. And I think knowing this is really important because, like many things in life, the first step to fixing the thing is becoming aware of like what the actual thing is. And I think a lot of people move through life feeling very triggered, but not even really knowing what a trigger is. And so our nervous system needs to feel safe enough in order to like really work through that emotion in order for us to move past it. But most of the time we don't let ourselves get into that environment where we really feel safe. And this is actually reminding me of like, I think this might even be my first live stream that I did on my channel about how to get out of survival mode. And so if you think that that would be an interesting video for you to check out, I'll probably link it in the description down below once I'm done with this live stream. So to recap, stored traumas or traumas that you've experienced become blocked emotions in your body, which then become triggers. So we can't control when something traumatic has happened to us. This can be anything from like on the really scary end of the spectrum where like you're in danger if you've been through something like really extremely traumatic, or this can be, you know, always being the fat friend growing up. It could be being the last person to get picked on the dodgeball team. It could be something your coworker said or a horrible ex-boyfriend. There's no right or wrong thing that's like traumatic enough or not traumatic enough to be considered something that could cause you to have a trigger later in life. It could be a comment your parent made. It could be a wide variety of things that can cause these triggers later on in your life. So even though we can't control what happened to us in our lives, no one else is gonna fix it for you. So you have two options here. You can either choose to feel triggered for the rest of your life by something that happened to you like 10 plus years ago, or you can put in the work to fix yourself. And inner work is not hard. We're gonna get into that a little bit later in this video. But let me check my notes here. So it's not your fault what happened to you, but it is your responsibility to fix the thing so that you're not getting triggered anymore. So hopefully we're all on the same page here and we all can kind of agree on what triggers are. So when we feel or experience something similar later in our life, that emotion is still trapped in our body and it like rips itself out. So like maybe you have a boyfriend who doesn't text you back in a time frame that you deem is acceptable. Then that will make you feel that abandonment feeling that you felt because you were a little kid and your parents weren't really around for you. So then you get triggered when your boyfriend's not texting you back and you're like, oh my God, where is he? What is he doing? Who is he with? He's abandoned me. He's ghosting me. You know, this has happened to me before. And then you like send him all these crazy text messages when really nothing has happened. That's just you re-experiencing that traumatic event that's triggering you. So why are we addicted to our triggers? And I probably put a really clickbaity, thumbnail on this video of like, we're all addicted, because the reality is a lot of us are addicted to our triggers. We will tell ourselves the same story over and over again, consciously or subconsciously, of like, I'm this negative thing, I'm too fat, I'm too unlovable, I'm too of much of a X, Y, and Z. There's a million different things that you can have ingrained and stored in your subconscious of like beliefs that you think you are because of past traumatic experiences that you've had. So for many people, their core identity is so tightly linked to the problems and traumas that they've had in their life that they subconsciously don't actually want to solve those problems and work through these triggers. And I feel like I don't have a ton of examples at the moment because I have done so much inner work, like years worth of inner work trying to work through my trauma. So I'm trying to think of an example of this. Let's say you have a friend whose ongoing story is, I only attract toxic men, or this boyfriend is doing this thing, or this guy's doing this thing. We've all got friends like that in our circle where it's like she just nonstop has guy problems. And you're, stage interventions with her, all of your friends are telling her like, don't date this guy, dump him, do all these things. But you can just tell, it's like, why isn't she listening to us? Like, why isn't she like seeing what all of us see, in the sense that like, you need to get out of the situation with this man? It's because this person, if she stopped being the girl that always attracted toxic men, she doesn't have anything to talk about. For her, that's a huge part of her identity, and a huge part of her identity when it comes to relationships. Or, oh my gosh, I've actually got a great example. I had a coworker a few years ago who was really, really upset about her weight. And she would talk about it all the time. She'd always be like, I'm so effing fat, I'm gonna go eat this because I'm a fat mother F. Like it was a huge part of conversation. We talk about it multiple times a day, or at least I just sit there and go, because I didn't have a choice. But it was just like constantly something she was talking about. She'd like, tell everyone at work about how she was going on this, soup only diet. And then 2 days in, she would fail the diet because that's not sustainable. And then she'd tell everyone about the fact that she failed the diet. It was a huge part of her identity. And on one hand, she'd like start having a couple of healthy habits, and then she would like ditch all of them and go back to that story of, screw it, whatever, I'm going to McDonald's after work because I'm a fat girl. Being overweight was such an intrinsic core part of her identity. She was always talking about it. She was always, keeping everyone updated on what was going on, to the point where if she had actually taken the time and lost the weight, it was like she wouldn't have been herself anymore. So that's why we're addicted to our triggers, is because a lot of the times those problems that we have, that we deem, like a huge part of our identity, we subconsciously don't want to change them, because what happens when you're not the overweight girl anymore? What happens when you're not the girl that's constantly attracting toxic men anymore? Who are you at that point? Or at least that's what we think to ourselves. So every single person on this planet is addicted to certain emotions. You can choose to be addicted to happy emotions. You can choose to be addicted to low vibe emotions, because at the end of the day, Emotions are chemicals that are released in our brains. So dopamine is a great example, and I'm not a scientist, but I've done, quite a bit of research on this, and this is just me communicating to you what I've learned in like basic terms. But when we are like always chasing dopamine, I mean, that could be in a very negative sense, in like the sense that you're doing drugs, or it could be, other ways that you're chasing dopamine, like runner's high. I'm a big runner, and I don't run in order to have runner's high, but feeling that feeling of accomplishment and runner's high after a really great run is sometimes the reason why I get out of bed in the morning to do the run when I really don't want to. And so you can choose to be addicted to those negative emotions or those positive emotions, because at the end of the day, we are all addicted to feeling certain emotions, whether that's, a gambling addict feeling addicted to the rush of gambling, or someone who, is a hopeless romantic and is addicted to the feeling of like being in love. There's so many different emotions that we can be addicted to, but it's up to you to choose which emotions that you're going to be addicted to. And this is a choice, because at the end of the day, no one can actually control your emotions. No person or no situation can actually come into your brain and your body and tinker around with the chemicals we've got going on in there and be like, no, she's gonna feel mad now, she's gonna feel happy now. So like a very common thing that gets thrown around, or a very common saying that gets thrown around by people that get triggered and that are angry all the time is, she made me feel like this, or, I feel like this because of the traffic at work today. The traffic on your way to work today can't chemically alter the state of your brain. What you choose in any given moment is a choice. So you have two options here. You can either continue to feel triggered for the rest of your life about something that happened to you way long ago in the past. You can choose to be addicted to those negative emotions. You can choose to be, addicted to suffering, or you can choose to do the work and feel better. So let me just check back in on where we're at in my notes here. All right, we're getting to the juicy part at the end here. So how can we actually reprogram a trigger once and for all? So I always do journal prompts in my videos. I'm not going to be doing a journal prompt today because I have an 8-step how to overcome a trigger process that I have integrated into my life, has completely transformed my life. It's based off of different articles and books and other creators and things. And it's just really worked really well for me. So my hope is that it does the same for you. Side note, the Amazon guy is like right outside the door. He's about to walk up to the door. So I'm just gonna be confident in myself because he's gonna totally hear this conversation. So before you actually commit to this 8-step process, you have to ask yourself, am I willing to change? Because we just talked about the fact that we are addicted to our identities and we're addicted to feeling certain emotions. You have to actually really ask yourself and be honest with yourself, what am I doing wrong here? How am I playing a part in feeling these triggered feelings every day? And you also have to check in with yourself and ask yourself, am I willing to see things differently? Am I willing to live my life in a different way? Am I actually ready to let go of that story, those triggers, that part of my identity, that victim mindset? Am I ready to do the work? And I heard a couple of different people say, when it comes to doing inner work and working on triggers, the only hard work that I want to sign up for in my life is inner work. And the first couple of times I heard that, I was like, oh my God, like these people have clearly never worked like a retail job, like life is so hard, boo-hoo, woe is me. But once I actually started taking the time and doing inner work and going after my triggers, everything else in life became so much easier. My relationships improved, my overall quality of life improved, my happiness improved, my health has improved as a byproduct of this. So now let's get on to the actual core of this video, the 8-step process on how to reprogram a trigger. And this is very technical, so I'm gonna try my best not to just be staring at the laptop, but I appreciate you guys understanding. So the first step in how to overcome a trigger is to become the observer. You are not your thoughts. You are the person who is witnessing your thoughts. And so if you think about this for a second, if you close your eyes and you imagine a word, let's say hello, and you imagine that word in your mind's eye. Are you the word hello? No, you are not. You are the entity, you are the consciousness that is witnessing that thought of hello. There's a whole lot of other stuff going on when it comes to this sort of train of thought. I would highly recommend The Power of Now. That's a great book. I'll link it down in the description down below. The Power of Now is a really great book on like how to get present. So you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness noticing your thoughts. Become the observer. So when you first notice that you're getting triggered by something that someone said, don't just lose your freaking mind. Become curious. So now whenever I get triggered by something, like if my man does something that triggers me, I don't immediately just launch into like, oh my God, I'm so triggered. You have to get curious. You have to think to yourself, I wonder what this is about. I am feeling a negative feeling right now, and I really am wondering what this is about. And this first step is one of the hardest ones to get into, because when your brain is so used to getting triggered by things, it doesn't take the time to stop and be like, I wonder why we're triggered. You just like launch into being triggered right away. So first step, become the observer. Don't just get triggered right away. Observe that thought that you're having. Okay, yeah, I'm getting triggered by this thing that my man said. Okay, interesting. The second step is to go somewhere private and safe and quiet when you can and do a body scan. So in the moment that you're getting triggered, you're not always able to just walk away right away. Like let's say you're at like a family party and your mean aunt or whatever, she says something nasty to you about like your weight or your job or your relationship status or something. You don't always have the opportunity to just be like, excuse me, hold on one moment, and then like go hide in the broom closet and like do this inner work. So once you've kind of, okay, I was triggered by this, that's interesting. Once you're able to, go be somewhere quiet and private and sit with yourself. I like to close my eyes when I do this, and I basically just feel what's going on in my body. Because every trigger or blocked emotion or like negative, awful feeling has a physical sensation in your body. What are you feeling? What is this trigger making you feel in your body? So for me, the two main ways that I feel triggers in my body, or when I started noticing it, is a really elevated heart rate. So when I would get like pissed off by something, I would just be like, and my Apple Watch would be like, girl, are you working out? Because my heart rate will just like shoot through the roof. And then the other way that sometimes when I feel triggered, actually I can think of two more. So I have three. The other way that sometimes I feel triggers in my body personally is I will feel tightness in my chest as well. Just like this like really constricting, like small like feeling where I just want to like hunch my shoulders over and like you're holding on to something. The third way that I personally feel triggers in my body is I get like a sinking feeling in my stomach, like just feeling like really sick and like, ooh, that doesn't feel good. I used to actually also get like tightness in my shoulders. I don't do that anymore, but feel that physical feeling in your body. Third step is just to sit with that feeling in your body, whether that's anger and, you know, a really elevated heart rate, or that sadness and like that drop in your stomach. Just sit there and feel the feeling. Do not make it try to go away. Don't be like, oh, this is a negative thing, we're just gonna shove this down in the closet, because that's not actually gonna fix the trigger. So you're sitting there, you're feeling into your body, you're feeling, okay, what's going on? I feel tightness in my back, you know, I'm sweating, you know, whatever that feeling is of that trigger. So sit with that. So third step is sit with the sensation, don't try to change it, just let it play out. 4 is kind of a bit of a bonus step, but it's oftentimes relevant. Step number 4 is if you can actually remember what the memory was that caused that trauma and caused that blocked emotion, relive that experience in your brain. And this only works for me about half of the time. It's not always that you're able to like, oh, I know exactly why I feel abandonment right now because of this thing. But this is a bonus step. So you can take step number 4 in 2 ways. One way that you can take step number 4, step 4A, is if you remember what happened, relive that experience, forgive whoever was involved, have conversations that you wish you had in that moment. So if you wish you had established a boundary with someone in the past, pretend to have that conversation. Really just like work through it and forgive that situation in your head. If you can't remember why you're feeling that feeling, try to get to the bottom of it anyway. That's 4B. So if you can't remember why you feel this negative emotion, as I sometimes can't, like I do this a lot with my partner, like if we ever get into like some kind of disagreement or something, which we haven't in a while, so I feel like I'm struggling for examples here. This is what happens when you do your inner work. You're like, I don't remember what my triggers were. But like whenever my partner and I have a disagreement, and I need to sit on it, and I'm like sitting there and I'm like, okay, why? What often happens for me is like I will feel, oh, I felt this emotion because this thing made me feel like this, or this thing made me feel, I already said nothing can make you feel a certain way. So if you can't figure out what originally was the cause of the trigger, at least figure out in this moment why that upset you. So, okay, I got really upset at my Aunt Susan because she asked me if I'm in a relationship, and I'm not. And the reason why I feel that way is because I feel like I have less of a value as a person because I'm always single, because no one loves me. So like, you know, really get to the root of what's actually going on. Step number 5 is to release that emotion through an emotional release activity. So examples of emotional release activities, it can be screaming into a pillow, it can be working out, it can be dancing, running, it could be throwing a tantrum. Don't do something that's like, you know, don't punch through a wall. But something that I do, for example, like if someone does something really rude to me in traffic, I won't just like sit there and be like, ugh, this stupid person. Like if someone does something like cuts me off and does something really scary and dangerous in traffic, I will like shake my entire body for like a second, because it really just helps me like, okay, whew, okay. And then I'm able to just move on. I know it looks silly and it looks ridiculous and you can't always do it in the moment, but there's something to holding or throwing a tantrum that actually helps quite a bit. Don't throw a tantrum if it's not appropriate, but there's a reason, like toddlers, for example, throw tantrums. They're releasing that emotion. So step 5 is do an emotional release activity. Step 6 is when you're done physically releasing the emotion, journal about it. So that's why we don't have a journal prompt for this video. So journal about it. See if you can get to the root of it. Okay, I felt triggered when my Aunt Sharon said this thing about me, and it made me feel like this, and this is how I felt in my body, and this is why I felt that way, and this is what I did to release it, because that's ultimately not true about myself. I'm not unlovable just because I'm not in a relationship at the moment. Like, take as many pages as you need to write down of like, really, okay, you've experienced the whole thing, you've moved the emotion through your body, you've gotten to the root of what's actually going on here, you've realized that it's not true, you've journaled about it. Step 7 is repeat affirmations to yourself as needed. So really, I think the core, like most important part of this is going from steps 1 through 6, becoming the observer, do a body scan of what's going on in your body, feel that feeling in your body and just sit with the sensation, get to the root of what's going on. If you can remember what the actual original trauma was, work through that. If you can't, figure out why you're feeling this way in the moment. Release the emotion through an emotional release activity, and then journal. Those are the first 6 steps. So if you can make it through those 6, awesome. Step 7 is moving forward. Have some affirmations that you can use on yourself. So I am so safe, I am loved, I am really smart, I can do anything I set my mind to. What else do I have? I'm not my thoughts, I am the awareness, noticing my thoughts. That's a good one. My whole stream that I like to do is I am not my thoughts, I am the awareness, noticing my thoughts, I am not my emotions, I am the awareness, noticing my emotions, I choose my thoughts create my emotions. So something like that. Give yourself something that, like, going forward in the future, you can say to yourself the next time you start feeling a trigger coming on. Step 8 is very simple. Repeat this process as needed. So I hope that this makes sense for you guys. I hope that you are getting as much value out of this as I know I have. And when I first made this list, I remember thinking to myself, I was compiling all of the tricks and techniques and things that I tried. I was like, dang, this is a lot of work. But again, you can either do this work and watch your triggers slowly disappear over time and free up all of that extra time and energy for you to create something with your life and add something to your life, or you can not do the work and you can keep getting triggered for the rest of your life and not add something to your life and spend a ton of time and energy and energetic resources feeling negative emotions that don't help you manifest, that don't help you attract people and opportunities and things into your life. So you know what I just realized? What I will do is I will put this 8-step process in the description box of this video. I am planning on launching some courses and like free workbooks and like pretty inexpensive workbooks and things about different topics, you know, manifestation, overcoming triggers. I really want to make this 8-step process of mine a little bit more in depth and like write it out and offer it as like a free download somewhere. I'm just not at that point yet. So in the meantime, I will be putting this in the description box of this video, along with, I think I mentioned the How to Get Out of Survival Mode video and the Eckhart Tolle book that I don't remember the title of, even though I just said it. Anyway, I really hope this helps you guys. I promise that doing this inner work is a lot easier than continuing to live your life feeling these negative emotions. So I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. Kind of like a heavy topic, but I feel so happy to be here. So anyway, thanks for making this such a fun place to be. I really appreciate you guys coming back and watching these live streams and videos, and you've got this, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.